And for our final story for this edition of the Rolling Stone, I have to admit that I sort of switched things up a little bit. I was planning on talking about something completely different, but I decided to talk about the story we're going to talk about instead for two reasons. First, because the two previous stories that we've talked about this week have been pretty heavy. Okay, Minneapolis delving into third world status and sitting members of the House Intelligence Committee sleeping with Chinese spies. That's some pretty heavy stuff. So we needed a little bit of levity, something, well, not exactly levity, but something not quite that serious. To buoy ourselves up just a little bit, however small. Hey, you know what? We'll take whatever we can get in these days. And then, because the more I thought about what the story I was originally going to talk about, the more I thought, that might fit more for a regular On the Stone video, which again, yes, they are coming. I haven't stopped doing them. My apologies. It's just, work and everything else. It gets really, really hectic sometimes, gang. My thank you, my apologies, and thank you for being patient with me in regards to that. But so we are talking about, the original story that I was going to do, that will be a regular On Stone video, and we are talking about this instead. To set the board game up for this story, I love Zorro. I love the character of Zorro. I grew up, when I was a kid, 7, 8, 9, I grew up on reruns of the old Disney show with Guy Williams. In fact, I still remember, if I had been good, again, when I was a kid, my mom and my dad would let me stay up until, gasp, 11 o'clock at night on Friday and Saturdays so I could watch those reruns of Zorro. Because those reruns only ran on the Disney Channel, and they only ran on the weekends, and only at 11 o'clock at night. Unless, I remember one time they did some sort of a special where it was 8 hours of Zorro. But I loved that show. Loved Guy Williams. To this day, he still holds a very special place in my heart when it comes to Zorro, because he was the very first Zorro that I saw. As I got older, though, I saw other interpretations of Zorro with other actors. Loved Tyrone Power in the 1940 version of The Mark of Zorro with Linda Darnell and Basil Rathbone. I love the two movies that Martin Campbell directed, The Mask of Zorro and The Legend of Zorro, with Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and the first one, which had Anthony Hopkins, who is, for my money, the veritable master of the craft of acting today. He is, I would probably say that he is one of the top 5 greatest actors living today. All hail the power of Anthony Hopkins. And plus, he's just one of the sweetest old guys that you could ever meet. If you do not follow him on Facebook, I sincerely suggest that you do, because in this crazy world, sometimes what you just need is this lovely, elderly, 80-year-old man playing classical music on his piano, with his cat running around him and it. It's the greatest thing to see. So I love Zorro. I love the character. I love the concept, the idea of a wealthy, and in this case, genuinely privileged man, because, Don Diego de la Vega is an actual, honest-to-God aristocrat who spends his nights defending the poor, the oppressed, and more importantly, the powerless in his community, from bullies, tyrants, banditos, and the rest of the scum of humanity. Love it, love it, love it. And because, for never having actually taken fencing lessons, I love swords. And so the fact that Zorro, his main weapon is a sword, is just, it's wonderful. Love it. Thank you to Johnston McCulley for actually creating the character of Zorro. So, of course, our contemporary geniuses and wizards of smart have to ruin Zorro. This is from Bounding Into Comics. Headline: New gender-swapped Zorro series with focus on social justice announced. NBC has announced that they will be producing a Robert Rodriguez-directed gender-swapped television reboot of Zorro. Alongside Rodriguez, the series creative team includes writer-director Rebecca Rodriguez, sister of Robert, and director of the film Snowpiercer, as well as Modern Family's Sofia Vergara and her Latin World Entertainment production company. According to the show's announcement press release, the Rodriguez sibling written Rebecca-directed Zorro will center on Sola Dominguez, an underground artist who fights for social justice as contemporary version of the mythical Zorro, whose life is threatened by several criminal organizations after she exposes them. Let me repeat something that I believe I have said before. This is a classic example of cultural appropriation. These Rodriguez siblings, they didn't create Zorro. Johnston McCulley created Zorro. Johnston McCulley said that Zorro is Don Diego de la Vega. And I know in Martin Campbell's films, he's actually Alejandro Muerta? No. That was in the 1976 Alain Delon version of Zorro, which honestly is a very, very cheesy, very, very bad Italian version of Zorro. But Alain Delon is actually a really good Zorro, and there are some genuinely good moments in that movie. 5 extra points if you watch that movie and you spot the dog who's wedding in the scene. Why the Italians didn't edit that out of the finished production, I have no idea. You've just gotta love the Italians. But no, in Martin Campbell's version, it's Alejandro Murrieta who's Zorro. But I give those movies a pass because he was still trained by Don Diego de la Vega, who of course was played by the aforesaid Manster, Anthony Hopkins. But Johnston McCulley created Zorro. Johnston McCulley created this character, made this character. Zorro is the creation of Johnston McCulley. Therefore, if you are going to muck around substantially with the story, with the setting, with the character, which includes like his race, his ethnicity, his nationality, his gender, his whole reason for becoming Zorro, then you are not doing Zorro. You are simply culturally appropriating the name Zorro to get eyes glued to their screens and so that you can do whatever propaganda that you want. And that's exactly what they're going to be doing. A social justice Zorro? Zorro isn't interested in social justice. Zorro is interested in justice. Plain and simple, which actually I think is a real reason why people don't want heroes anymore. I think that this is a really prime reason. This is a prime reason why people are actually recreating heroes. They're doing the same thing, FYI, with Batman and his comics. To some extent, they're slowly easing into it, unfortunately. And it's the fact that our society doesn't care about justice anymore. Have you noticed that? We don't care about justice. Again, to go back to our first 2 stories, if we really cared about justice, the Minneapolis City Council wouldn't have voted to slash $8 million from its police department during a crime spike, which includes all sorts of crimes: violent carjackings, homicides, rape, murder. We're supposed to care about women, but we're still going to defund the police. If we really cared about justice, Eric Swalwell would have been booted out from Congress after figuring out that he, a sitting member of the Intelligence Committee on Congress, had been banging a Chinese spy. But we don't want justice. We don't want justice because justice is hard. Not just that it is hard to actually enforce, but it is a hard pill to swallow, because if we do justice towards others, if we give to others what is due to them, then that means we are going to receive what is due to us. And people don't like that. People don't like that part of the equation. We want to be able to do whatever we want. Even before Anthony Kennedy's asinine and monstrous mystery passage in his majority opinion of Planned Parenthood versus Casey, where he said at the heart of liberty is the right to define life and even the meaning of the universe itself. Even before that, we did not like justice. It's naturally part of our fallen human nature. Which is why the heroes who actually stood for something, the heroes who actually survived the whims and fancies and the changing attitudes of a fickle pop culture, they have to be changed. They have to be changed. And this, in and of itself, to go even a little deeper, is another example of something that George Orwell talked about. In 1984, his dystopian novel, there's a point where one of the party members tells the protagonist, Winston Smith, that everything has been rewritten. Every date has been changed. Every historical event has been rewritten. All the paintings have been redone. All the music recomposed. In essence, history has stopped. And we all live in a never-ending now where the party is always right. We see that again here. Zorro has been recreated, Frankenstein style, so that he more closely resembles our time. He more closely mirrors our times and what we want, instead of standing above and beyond the fads and the fashions and the fancies of the current pop culture, and simply being a symbol of actual justice. And that's very important, because we've talked about before about our need for heroes. I mean, not just a personal need, but a national need, a mythological need for heroes. So if you can rewrite your heroes so that they are nothing more but vessels for the zeitgeist, and not actually tabernacles of the true, the good, and the beautiful, as heroes are supposed to be, then everyone will, of course, be modeling themselves after your Frankenstein version of the hero and not the actual hero. You will have been able to rewrite heroism. So, cultural appropriation, another step of totalitarianism. That's what this rewriting of Zorro is. And unfortunately, no one on the right is going to be able to do anything about it, even if they actually wanted to. I mean, this is something that no one actually would. No one pays any attention to this sort of story unless they're quote-unquote geeks or nerds. But again, this is important stuff, like what we were just saying about heroes and cultural appropriation and everything else. The only thing I can think of is don't even bother when this show premieres. Pray that it doesn't succeed, and if it does, don't watch it. I certainly will not be watching it. I will be watching Guy Williams, Tyrone Power, Anthony Hopkins, Antonio Banderas, even Alain Delon. In other words, I will actually be watching Zorro, not some sort of gender-swapped Frankenstein-created monstrosity posing as Zorro. And with that, gang, I'm going to sign off. Have a great weekend, stay safe and stay free, and I will chat at you all soon. Ciao.